American Constitution, First Amendment.
Contact Report 851.
In truth, there is a long and shameful history of the USA, which proves since time immemorial that justice is written tiny in the USA. On the other hand, however, since time immemorial, the country has issued reprimands, that is to say, brought about prosecutions against bureaucratic and political adversaries that are truly horrifying. This has always been done through the First Amendment, and quite quickly after its creation. The reason for this was the fear of U.S. interference when the passage of the Alien and Sedition Acts was invoked by agents of France. This law prohibited even then any malicious, false, and scandalous writings that could be directed against the U.S. President or the U.S. government, as well as against Congress. The constitutional amendment thus made any attack, if still justified, a conspiracy against measures of the government of the United States. Consequently, any exposure, however rotten, of machinations, lies, deceit, treachery, and underhandedness, etc. of the government and rulers, the military and the intelligence services, is illegal and punishable to the hilt on the part of the ever-present constitutional article. This means that it is dangerous and punishable in America, as it is in the outside world, for U.S. citizens to violate the aforementioned constitutional article, including truth-tellers who are not American citizens and foreign nationals. Many such ones are therefore in great danger of being arrested by America in accordance with this constitutional article, as is happening, for example, with Julian Assange, with whom England, the UK, is criminally aiding and abetting the USA in the implementation of the constitutional article, although Assange is a citizen of Australia. However, this does not matter for the USA and England. What is important is that for America the injustice can be fulfilled, up to and including the liquidation, that is to say, murder of those persons who disregard the constitutional scandal. The unlawful use in this respect, which is contemptuous of every human right and every truth, is a shameful weapon of politics and an example of how a state-sanctioned hysteria is operated by America, which is particularly geared towards suffocating alleged domestic and foreign threats at the very outset and preventing them by all means, with murder also not excluded. The fact that the whole of the constitutional article is a deprivation of freedom, a suppression of freedom of opinion, and an unparalleled suppression of truth is tacitly accepted by the people of America, because they have no other choice, otherwise they will fall into the mills of persecution, which may mean liquidation. The claim that the constitutional article would serve U.S. state security and U.S. government policy is nothing more than a lie, and also an example of the fear of America's government that the hegemony mania and war mania, as well as the insidiousness of the U.S. state leadership and the powerful of the shadow government in this respect, would become widely known among the dumbfounded population and create turmoil. It is also sadly the case that critics of U.S. government policy are at least muzzled, if not murdered. Lies about external foreign powers have been spread, and these have been hostilely slandered. This as hostile, lying, and fraudulent disinformation has been raised since ancient times. In drafting the constitutional article and the Constitution itself, those in power knew how everything would be handled and always acted upon strictly in order to retain power and use all possible means against their opponents. Therefore, they also devised a limited governance in which might could be absolutely controlled. The American politicians of the first period, when the constitutional articles were created, forced the righteous to give in to it, namely, to use the law as a weapon against the people and their opponents. Since then, everything has been expanded even further. Consequently, the growth of governance has turned into the final construction of unrighteous governance. This has led to an unelected and unlawful handling of the bureaucracy and leadership of the USA, and this is the role that is being played in the USA today. America as a state is today pursuing its own agenda in addition to that of its people, and it is doing so ruthlessly against the effective reality of any desire for peace and the other desires of the American people. The American state, that is to say, the American government, is working to infiltrate, harass, and eliminate all those of the population and all states of the world who oppose its agenda of terror and violence. That the effective government and the shadow government of the USA are using tactics ranging from worldwide persecution to assassination of those, whether American-born or other nationals, who expose the truth of the U.S. government, the crimes of the military and the legislation and governance and its delusions of hegemony, etc. That is a fact. What an American person told me in the early 1980s, whose name I am not allowed to mention, which I promised him, when I met him in Dusnang, because he was supposed to shadow and spy on me, but then sided with me in terms of opinion, is the following, which I cannot reproduce exactly, but in essence, when he said, "While I myself am an American, I must advise the human beings who want to lead and live their lives in real and true freedom. They should not come to America and not trust that they can find and have in the USA what they really desire. They only find out the real freedom that America offers when they want to live it and experience what is really behind it all. What is the effective truth and reality?" This is what the man said, arguably voicing what is being operated by the government and shadow government using the aforementioned article of the Constitution. For it is not true freedom that is being promoted and practiced, but strict slavery with harsh constitutional articles, as effective slavery was practiced and was common practice at the beginning of America, whereby not only human beings in Africa were robbed and enslaved, but effectively also white ones, but this is hushed up to this day, which goes as far as farce and even insidious murder, as happened, for example, with President Kennedy. This is America as it lives and breathes, in addition to what is commonplace and unjust with regard to the underhandedness and meanness of the aforementioned constitutional article, the application of which is not only persecuted in America itself, but is even applied worldwide in a very sleazy form. One only has to think of Julian Paul Assange, unlawfully held in Belmarsh prison in England awaiting extradition to America, and Edward Joseph Snowden, who has sought refuge in Russia. In the case of Julian Assange, the U.S. is demanding extradition because he published secret documents about the U.S. occupation of Afghanistan and the war in Iraq. What is happening to Assange is what the USA's constitutional article does to persons who express a certain political opinion and do not agree with what the USA government and its military and the U.S. Secret Services are doing, not only in the USA but uninhibitedly in all countries of the world, so also in neutral ones. The U.S. wants to make an example of Assange, and they want to silence him by locking him up forever, or murdering him, then mendaciously claiming that he killed himself, that he died of heart failure, accident or illness, etc. This is intended to silence all whistleblowers. This is to stop all whistleblowers, as those who openly disclose government, military and intelligence secrets are called, from going public to freely and openly disclose what the secrets of the U.S. really are regarding the wrongdoings of the U.S. government, the U.S. military, and the U.S. intelligence agencies active around the world. The message is clear. If someone dares to do it anyway, the person concerned pays a very high price for it, up to and including their treacherous murder. The events surrounding the Assange and Snowden cases affect all whistleblowers, but it also affects journalists and private individuals who dare to openly speak the truth about America and its constitutional article of shame, or cooperate with whistleblowers, but it also affects people who support whistleblowers or other persons who take a closer look at the truth in any process. The dirty hammer is that foreign states secretly or openly sympathize with America and punish and persecute their own citizens for U.S. demands. It is not only the human beings who are in danger when they tell the truth, but also those journalists and the press who are dedicated to the truth.